TheAnswer.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this hour of the Shaun Thompson Show is sponsored exclusively by DonleyAuctions.com. They need your guns. Sell for top dollar. DonleyAuctions.com.
I love America. I love the Constitution. I love the First Amendment. I want to carry and all guns. I love it, property. And let me tell you something. If you care about your country, read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers.
From the streets of Melrose Park to the trading floor of the Merc, he's fought for every dollar he's ever earned. And now, with personal liberty and our system of capitalism under assault in America, he's here to seize back our rights from the government. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the other, he's Shaun Thompson. And this is the Shaun Thompson Show.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag.
There are elements of socialism that are part of our system today, including medical. You know, there are elements of socialism that are part of our system today, including Medicare and Social Security. And
how about policing? How about you call the cops? Guess who pays them? Your tax dollars. Guess what that is? That's socialism, pal. Sorry.
And that's a moron. That's an absolute fracking moron who is trying to get you used to the idea that you are enslaved to lowlifes and cockroaches and drug addicts and wife beaters and degenerate whores, that you are responsible to pay the bills of citizens you may know or not know and illegal aliens you hope you never know. That's what is being slowly cooked into what you thought your tax dollars were for, or you thought was a social safety net. And that's the problem with communism, socialism, and Marxism. It's just a cancer that erodes the property of the decent people. My next guest knows this all too well, not just because he's an accountant, of which he is, but because he's a brilliant accountant. Author of the book, 2008, What Really Happened, Understanding the Great Financial Crisis. He's also the author of a Substack on wealth and progress. And my friend, Todd Sheets. How are you, handsome?
Shaun, I'm doing great. How are you tonight?
Well, it's aggravating as I listen to these fracking moron lawyers, scumbags like Keith Ellison from Minnesota, and all of the scoundrels that created these policies in order to steal my money and then tell me I have to participate in it because it's like police coming when I call them. It's very aggravating. I don't know how you deal with this, Todd. I don't know how you do it.
Well, it's super hard, but I mean, it's interesting as I was listening to that, the answer to that goes all the way back to Adam Smith and his writings about capitalism before it even became a tested and tried and true way of lifting the masses up out of poverty for the first time in history. And Adam Smith even said, that all you need is easy taxes, a light touch of regulation, and safety and security for the people. So it was never an idea that government would do nothing. It was always an idea that government would do the very least that was necessary to provide the basics that would then create the platform for capitalism to grow and flourish under.
And
so the idea that having police is socialism is ridiculous. It's never been a part of the idea.
And I want you to think about this. He is the chief law enforcement officer of Minnesota. He's the AG. I mean, that's how stupid he is. And, this is the broader issue. Because in the same vein, that's what I pay you for. You don't do me a favor. That's what you are to do. And the irony is one of the very few things government is supposed to do is enforce the law. Yet in the worst areas in this country, the most bankrupt, the most scandal-ridden, the lowest living standard in the country, they actually brag that they will not enforce law, whether it's immigration law or whether it's locking up scum that I pay you to do. So who broke the covenant with whom is irrelevant. The covenant is broken. Now we're done paying taxes. What do you think of that?
Well, look, I think if we were done paying taxes, that would take us back to where we were for what I like to think of from 1800, to the early limited government era where we had no income tax until 1913. We went through the greatest social change, the greatest technological change, the greatest lifestyle change in the history of the world in that period of time. And during that time, with no taxes, with no Federal Reserve, with basically no federal debt other than during the wars when we had the Civil War primarily and then later the World Wars when we had to take on debt to fund it. But then they paid the debt back down afterward. So we ran consistently with government spending at about 3% of total GDP. Today it's like 23, 24%. We had revenues that were based on tariffs and excise taxes, like things like liquor and so on and so forth, but they were equal to the revenues at very small, the expenditures at very small levels. And we grew faster than we've ever grown through the most change we've ever experienced. And we welcome more immigrants who were coming here because they wanted to work and contribute and be a part of this unbelievable system that would enable them to have a much better life than they had ever had before. And we know that the myths of robber barons and exploitations, although there are anecdotes that are true about that, we know that they're false because, as Milton Friedman once wrote, these immigrants came and they stayed. And it wasn't like they fled to get out of this godforsaken place where they were being exploited so bad. They did the opposite. They came, they worked hard, and they saved money so they could bring other family members over to participate. That was the best functioning economy for the widest range of people, and the one that helped the most diverse range of people, experience an upward mobility and the creation of the middle class in the history of the world.
And they did it all.
No taxes.
They did it all without Social Security, without Medicare, without Medicaid, without unemployment, without any social safety net as it's referred to, but what it really is, equity killing, dollar slaying socialism. We just call it a social safety net because we're ingrained to talk like our slave master. But what it really is a policy that is meant to be stolen from. And we are either going to make the decision to break it apart or we are going to go bankrupt, because the other dirty little secret, every time I talk to you, I love to remind people, $30 trillion, 30, and now 31 very soon, has been added to the debt since you wrote the fantastic book, 2008, What Really Happened. In 18 years, $30 trillion was added to the debt. That's the most outrageous reality and factoid that I think anybody can ever say on airwaves, anywhere, or in a conversation. The fact that since Barack Obama and that Bigfoot broad of his went to Washington, D.C., you added $30 trillion and counting, it's over with. We are on a bankruptcy tailspin, a doom loop. Call it what you will, but it's the cancer of communism eating up the decent people who want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, look, Shaun, it's the direct result of government spending more than it's taking in, which it has to come from somewhere. It can come from two places. It can come from additional borrowing, which is what you're pointing out. And the other place it can come from is the Federal Reserve printing too much money to help fund it. And so we saw both examples of these things. Obama comes in after the financial crisis. He employs misguided, what they call Keynesian economic thinking. This was the idea that government spending can reinvigorate economic growth after a downturn. It didn't work during the Great Depression, and it didn't work then. We still had anemic growth, but what we got was debt levels under Obama that went from kind of the high end of the safe range. It was about 40% of GDP when he came in, up to about 75% or a little higher of GDP when he left. That's the high, that's the low end of the dangerous range.
But what he did was implement the acorn of the communist seed of Obamacare. And, this is the part, Todd, it's a staggering reality. If you look up this information, which I know you do on your spare time, but I want the audience to catch up with you, in the form of what is called entitlements, just in that form, every single year, this government spends $2.5 trillion now. There is a 3% automatic baseline increase in that number. So 3% of 2.5 trillion is a significant increase in the so-called safety social nets. Now, Todd, listen to this. When you add public education, that's another $1 trillion onto that number. $1 trillion in public education. Now, that's not even the best part, Todd. Add on the cost to the American debt, which is not the people anymore because we can't pay that. We're already broke. To the American debt, and this is every single year in the name of green energy, eco-Nazism, as I prefer. 1.6 trillion. So in the grand scheme of things, what is that, 5.2 trillion in simple math? Every single year and growing 3%, that's automatically in the spending. These are laws that you cannot stop, which means if I elect Todd Sheets tomorrow for my president, or I'm the president, you're the vice president, there ain't nothing we could do about it. That's the aggravating part.
Yeah, the hopes that we have, and this goes back to some conversations we had a long time ago on the air, is the one hope is that we can kickstart the kind of economic growth that we were talking about earlier for that long limited government era, or that we had again during the Reagan Revolution, the free market revolution, which pushed things back in the right direction. And if you start getting to where you have growth that equals inflation plus about 3% or more per year, then you're looking at 5% nominal rates of growth. And that's where then the economy starts growing faster than all of this entitlement growth. That's the only hope that we have of getting out of this.
And I'm going to make you feel real good about things.
As of last week, $19.2 trillion pouring into the United States right now from all over the world. That's the investments being made. And the record was 3. In 4 years, the last administration did much less than 1, and we did 19.2 in 12 months.
Trump is threading the needle. What the Trump administration has done, what is happening to me, is the revitalization, the rebirth of what would be called an industrial boom. But it's not happening everywhere the way the first one did. In fact, this one is only happening and this is the silver lining for me, and the beauty of it, it is only happening in the non-mafia run states. 11 states are the boom belt, and all that money and all the growth are going to the states that are run honestly on the principles of Americanism. And these Democrat dunghole states, they're the ones that are really swallowing their own tail, pretending to be hunters. I love it. How do we keep it up, and how do we cut them out of the money that is being made by the decent?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things in what you're saying there, Shaun, that are important to follow up on. One of them is we just talked about one reason for optimism is the potential of getting our economy, the only one in the world that has the potential to grow at the kind of rates that can actually help us work our way out of it. The second big factor is the one you just alluded to, which is this unique federalist system where we have these states that are, individual experiments in how to run something well or how to run something poorly. And what we've seen, over the last 50, 60 years is the Democrats, frankly, run some of the most well-endowed, financially well-endowed states in the world. New York, the world financial capital. Yes. California, with all the benefits it has, the world entertainment and world technology center. Chicago, the industrial, the capital of the industrial heartland of America. Those things have been run into the ground by these failed policies. But as that's occurred, what we have are these red states, this growth belt that you're talking about, stretching from Florida over to Texas and up to Tennessee and across, that have gone a different direction politically. It's where all the economic growth is going. It's where all the people are moving. And that gives us the potential to learn this lesson without having to learn it the hardest way, like places like Cuba, Venezuela, the Soviet Union, basically everywhere that's tinkered with these, socialism, communism, whatever you want to call it, democratic socialist ideas, where we have an opportunity to see how bad and what the consequences are of these failed policies in the blue states and see the positives in the red states and learn without collapsing the whole system. One more quick point on this, in this regard. I think this is very important for people to understand. Even if you have some things with Trump that you disagree with or that you're frustrated with, maybe you don't like the way that negotiations over the Iran war are going, or maybe there's occasionally times you think ICE is being too heavy-handed, or whatever the issue is. It's very important to me to remember he is the leading figure that we have to combat the spread of these failed policies throughout the country. Because if the Democrats win the next time, what we're going to see is the elected president will start enacting policies to take money away from the successful states to fund the failures of the unsuccessful states. They will spread the dysfunction into the areas that have been working.
Which is why.
And that is something we've got to keep from happening.
Well, I want to go absolutely and totally old school America on it. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. We talk about it as states, but let's really look at the country. We are 6%, really less than 6% developed. That's it. It's a big country. When you look at the elections and when you specifically break it down in the form of counties, the same counties for 20 years vote the same way. These are the counties that destroy the country. These are the Democrat counties. Every single one of them. And they are infinitesimal. California, 74% of the counties are not commie, are not Democrat run, are not embroiled in scandal. Illinois, staggering. 33 counties already voted for secession. Now, there's a myth out there that I think, and that myth, as far as I can tell, is that, another state has to get it. Why, Todd Sheets? You're a brilliant guy. You've read all the documentation. Why? Why do we have 50 states? Why not 100? Why not 150? Why not 200? Why not really break it apart? Because it's harder to corrupt when it's broken apart. It's harder for that cancer you speak of to spread. And you have to do something. And if we're not going to break the currency by the states the way it should be, if we're going to continue to pretend that this monopoly called the Federal Reserve that can create buyers for bonds nobody wants and monetize debt, put two words together, and everybody goes, then we're going to have to figure out how to be a little bit more aggressive in fighting off the cancer of corruption that is Chicago, New York, L.A., San Francisco, and only an infinitesimal amount of the counties. After all, what is it, 427 counties between the Duchess and Chaffeeton and the office tramp? That's all they ever win. That's all they've ever won. So I think now is the time to really break the country apart by counties to save the good people who are being dragged down by the crooked few known as Democrat strongholds in urban areas. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think that's correct. And some of this is happening naturally, which we're also seeing with these big population changes where it's all the people flowing out of those states and into the successful states. And that is going to reset the political map, significantly when we get into the next census cycle, at the end of this decade and that kind of thing. You're going to start seeing these failing blue states, if they don't get bailed out by another Democratic administration.
Well, you got
and
50 million.
Keep leaving.
You got 50 million illegal aliens that are on the rolls. What if you just took the 50 million away from California, Illinois, and New York? What would that do to the map?
Yeah, and I think, Shaun, that brings up another point that is just so critically important for people to understand. That those 50 million, 40 million, whatever the number is, all of the illegal immigrants who have been let in under false expectations that they would be treated as if they were American citizens with the right to receive the benefits and all of these kind of things that we can't afford and that the American people don't want. This is one of the most cynical programs that the Democrats and the socialists have ever run, because as they try and act like they're standing up and waving the flag for these people and they want to help them, and they create these sanctuary cities, which don't obey the laws of the country. What they are really trying to do is pad the voter rolls so that they can continue to win these elections. They are exploiting and using these people in a way that is completely unfair to them. When Trump sends them back, he's just living up to the law. They are breaking the law for their own political benefit, and they are exploiting these individuals.
Which is part of the Declaration of Independence, Part 2, where we enumerate the atrocities and the abuses and the lawlessness of mafia-controlled areas. Because what you really said is they're promised, and shame on them. Well, if you are in Chicago or New York or L.A., it is better to be an illegal alien than to be a citizen, not just because they get away with petty crime and major crime and drug dealing, but because they are recipients of money citizens don't get. Kathy Hochul blew $8 billion on illegal aliens. This fat pig, J.B. Pritzker, blew what, $5 billion and counting? Look at Gavin Newsom. How many billions did he blow? So just a little rebuttal to what you said. They do get that treatment. Now, to your broader point, only in nations or only in states that already nullified the national law. That's what a sanctuary is. You're not a sanctuary from anything. You're a confederacy. And those states that declare sanctuary state are really the new confederacy. Let's get this party started. Because in case you're wondering, they can elect a Nazi in Maine. They can elect a rapist in Seattle. They can do whatever they want. After all, they're still rubbing the feet of Bill Clinton, who was molesting an intern.
Yeah, look, I mean, the money that you're talking about being spent, that is part of the cynicism. They are spending money they don't have because these states are effectively bankrupt. They cannot afford their pension systems and all those kinds of things, especially if they stop growing, which they have basically done, and they start losing population, which they have done. But they are spending money they don't have, trying to take even more from the people who create it in order to lure these people into these areas where they are exploiting them for the benefit of their vote or becoming a part of the Democratic Party. You know, California, you go back 40 or 50 years, was a very red-blue state. I mean, we had a couple of presidents, within a 10, 15-year period of time that came from California.
74 counties are still hardcore Republican. 74!
Absolutely. But now it's become a one-party state where, even the moderate Democrats are starting to get wiped out by the more aggressive, socialist Democrats and that kind of thing.
Todd,
that's why I think we're seeing an opening that we're seeing for Steve Hilton out there.
It's the same thing here. The same thing here in Illinois. I mean, it's embarrassing, this fat, butter-handed pansy. You have 33 counties that already said, please get us the frag out of here. And I don't know did you hear what his rebuttal was to this? 33 counties, first time since the Civil War. 33 counties voted for secession. Indiana voted to accept them. And the fat pig Pritzker here.
I'm sorry that people want to make a spectacle of themselves by claiming that they're going to leave the state. Look, if you want to leave the state, I would like you to stay. I'd like you to get involved and make it a better place by working together with us. But if you want to leave, then get up and move. And there's no chance that you're going to pick up a county and have it join another state.
See, this is why I can't live here. Because I hear this, I start itching myself. I want to figure out where this fat pig is and ear slap the taste out of his mouth. Who does this whore, who's been on FBI tape with the other governor, Rod Blagojevich, who went to prison and should have gotten a life sentence, they should have hung him by his toes, and the idiots elect him. This guy's a billionaire, never made $1 in his life, and think about $1 billion. Now you know how much $1 billion is. It's 1,000 million. That's just one. He's got 4. Here's the character of this slob. He actually frauded his city and state by removing toilets, so he could declare the house inhabitable and have it lowered as an inhabitable to save, what, $40,000 a year? That's the kind of low character this fat slob billionaire has. But let me tell you something. He could run against nobody or everybody, and the Democrats will vote for this slob come hell or high water, or they'll just steal it in Cook County like they've been stealing elections since the 60s.
Oh, look, he's a part of this new Democratic vanguard where the socialists are coming out of the closet. They used to try and hide it. Barack Obama, when he first started running for president, I was actually excited about him. I hadn't voted Democrat. I grew up in a Democratic family, but as soon as I could vote, I voted for Reagan and stayed Republican for a long time. I got frustrated with Bush.
Yeah.
But then Obama came, and I started off feeling somewhat excited about him. But then I read his book, And, and I said, this guy's just an FDR Democrat who wants to expand the government as much as he possibly can. There's nothing new here.
Yeah.
But at that time, they were still trying to hide behind the idea that, hey, we still believe in capitalism and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That stuff's out the window now at this point in time. They're proud to be socialists.
Yeah. Now, did you read the book where he talks about it?
The party.
Did you read the book where he brags about the dog eating? No, that's not the book you read?
No, I read The Audacity of Hope. That was
all right.
Not that one.
Yeah, that was the fluff one. The one where he admits to eating the dog when he lived in Indonesia for the second richest oil man out of Indonesia, who used to be a colonel named Lolo Sotoro. That's an interesting one. You'd love that, Todd. You see, I could talk to you all day. We went long, and I love it. Where's the best place to keep an eye on everything, Todd Sheets?
Yeah, so they can find me at Substack. Just search Todd Sheets and On Wealth and Progress. That's SHEETS. Or they can find the same information in an audio-visual kind of format on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube each week.
Thanks for joining me, my friend. More importantly, thanks for being the author of the book, 2008, What Really Happened, Understanding the Great Financial Crisis. Next time I have you back, we're going to talk about the boogeyman, fear of markets as the markets set records, and the growth is outrageous. I love what he's doing. He's threading the needle. Feel free to make that the title of your next article. I won't sue you.
I appreciate it, Shaun, and thank you for everything you do to get this word out there. It is so important for people to hear this.
Thank you, brother. We'll be back with your calls and comments.
This is the Shaun Thompson Show, where Democrats are always wrong, Republicans are seldom right, and politics